Now it's time for this hour's news review. Russia has pledged to retaliate after the Czech Republic expelled 18 Russian diplomats over a 2014 explosion in an eastern Czech town. Moscow called the expulsions a provocation. It said the accusations that Russian intelligence services were behind the blast are absurd and unfounded. Russia said it's hard not to see the American trace here. It accused Prague of striving to please Washington. Prague expelled the Russian diplomats on Saturday following investigations into the blast that killed 2 people in an ammunition depot. The UK has backed the expulsions. It says Czech officials have exposed the lengths Russia will go to in its attempts to carry out what London called dangerous and malign operations. I'd like to welcome both my guests to this news review out of Moscow, Press TV's Marina Kortunova, and out of London, Marcus Papadopoulos, historian, journalist, and author. Thank you both for being with us. Let's start it off in Moscow and hear that side of things. What's going on?
Well, good evening. With the coming to power of Biden administration, diplomatic scandals and accusations have rocked Russia almost every week. Also, the military exercises of NATO countries near our borders have intensified, and reconnaissance aircraft of the NATO coalition countries are intercepted in the air, even in the region of Kamchatka and the Far East. With Czech case, the Russian Foreign Ministry saw in the expulsion of its diplomats a desire to please the United States. The Russian Foreign Ministry expressed a strong protest to Czech authorities. They are being expelled, said that Russian diplomats are being expelled under unfounded and far-fetched pretexts about the involvement of Russian special services in the 2014 explosion at military depots in the village of Verbetice, the ministry said. It also said that the ministry promised to take retaliatory measures, and says this is all the more absurd since earlier the Czech leadership blamed the explosions on the firms that own these warhouses. Commenting on the decision of the Czech authorities, the foreign ministry announced an American trace. And it says that in an effort to please the United States against the backdrop of recent U.S. sanctions against Russia, the Czech authorities have even surpassed their overseas masters in this respect. The foreign minister promised to take retaliatory measures that will make the authors of this provocation realize their full responsibility for destroying the foundations of the normal development of relations between Russia and the Czech Republic. A radical warming was outlined in the dialogue between Moscow and Prague. The Czech Republic was ready to purchase the Sputnik V vaccine and sent Deputy Prime Minister Jan Gamachik to Moscow on Monday. However, on Saturday evening, it became clear that instead of warming, bilateral relations will face a serious cooling. Okay. Moscow has already threatened that retaliatory actions will not be long in coming, and for Prague, this escalation may result in the expulsion from Russia of almost all of its diplomatic missions in full force.
Okay, stay with me, Marina. Stay with me. Let me get Marcus in on this discussion. Marcus, in your perspective, what is this all about?
This story is a peculiar but unsurprising one. Nonetheless, I will approach it as a proper court of law would approach it. First and most important of all, I demand evidence. Secondly, I need to know about the nature of those making the allegations. Let's take the first requirement, the most important requirement, first of all, evidence. The Czech authorities and their patrons in Washington and in London have put forward no evidence whatsoever. Even, I might add, evidence which could be regarded as flimsy to support their allegation that Russian special services have been interfering inside the Czech Republic. Secondly, the Czech authorities are only independent on paper. The reality about the Czech authorities, and the same can apply to Poland, and the same can apply to Hungary and Romania and Bulgaria and Serbia, is that these are not truly independent countries. They are vassal states of America and Britain. Now, with all that in mind, I believe that what we are seeing here is part of a concerted campaign by the Americans and the British to not just denigrate Russia in the eyes of the rest of the world, but also to weaken Russian influence in Europe. And the Czech Republic is a very interesting case because, with the notable exception of the Czech uprising of 1968, the Czechs and the Russians have very good relations with each other. Indeed, both countries are predominantly Slavic countries. And I believe therein lies a reason why the British and the Americans have now turned their attention to the Czech Republic, because the Czechs historically, with the exception of 1968, have close relations with the Russians. And for the British and the Americans, that is potentially dangerous. We should not also forget that initially the American missile defense shield, which is today operational in Eastern Europe, in Poland and in Romania, was initially designated for Poland and the Czech Republic. But vast amounts of the Czech Republic opposed that and made their opposition very well known to the authorities. Therefore, the option of the Czech Republic partly hosting the American missile defense shield was dropped, so it was moved to Romania. And it doesn't matter in the slightest bit that the British government is saying that the allegations are correct, or the BBC is saying that the allegations are correct, because both the British government and the BBC are not impartial parties to this. And I would add this as well. My own premise is this: when the British state, or when a representative of the British state says one thing, you should always think the other. So when they accuse Russia or Iran of supporting terrorism, the British state knows that it itself supports terrorism. So this is part of a concerted Western campaign against Russia.
Okay, and on that note, I appreciate both of you being with us for this news review. Marina Kortunova, Press TV's correspondent in Moscow, and Marcus Papadopoulos, historian, journalist, and author out of London.